What's up? This is Stanky, the driving dude with all things driving. Great to share stuff with you today. Thanks for tuning in. Boy, have I got some good stuff. We're going to be talking about getting pulled over by the police, the cops, the heat, and getting a ticket or getting a warning. I have some tips for you, have some stories for you. Definitely have a stat or two for you. And let's get right at it. Let me look at this piece of paper that I have right in front of me here. I may have mentioned this in another episode, but 41 million tickets in our country are given each year. And that turns out to be about 112,000 tickets per day. Can you imagine that? Oh my gosh, what are you guys doing out there? All you lawbreakers. Well, I have to admit, I've been on the receiving end of a ticket or two, or three, or four. You know, what's interesting is that I teach traffic school. Been doing it for a long time now. In fact, tonight, in the next hour or so, we're going to have almost 20 people here tonight because they have to take a 4-hour traffic school class with us. The last class we taught about a week and a half ago, I had 21 of them, and 18 of them were tickets for speeding. 2 ran stop signs, and 1 ran a red light, if I can remember correctly. So that's a lot of tickets. The wild thing is I pulled all 21 people, and about, I think, 17 or 18 of them mentioned that they had been pulled over before and simply given a warning. So that's very interesting too, how many of them got warnings and not tickets. I've had people tell me over the years that cops are, trying to fulfill their monthly quota, and that's why they give so many tickets out near the end of the month. But I've never noticed that because we've had a lot of people in our program who come to traffic school, and many of them did not get tickets right at the end of the month. They're all different days of the month. And I've asked my police officer friends, I've straight up, hey, come on, you guys give out tickets because you have a quota to fulfill, correct? And they've all told me across the board, no, they give out tickets because 1, it's their job, and 2, they're trying to keep the roads safe. And I guess I can understand that, because if they had a quota to give, to fulfill, then why would they ever give out any warnings? Think about that. If they had, a certain amount of tickets they had to give out by the end of the month, why in the world would they give out any warnings and then be stressed at the end of the month to have to play catch up when they could simply ticket every single person they pull over, and then at the end of the month know, oh, I've already reached the goal that is given to me by my superiors. You guys get that? So let me tell you my little driving story. Maybe you'll chuckle at it. Maybe you'll make your teens listen to this. But I didn't get my license on my 16th birthday, or even when I was 16. I went through driver's ed in, I guess, 10th grade, something like that. I was 15. And I took it with our track coach, and he's the one who taught us in one of those trailers. I guess they call them modules or something like that, air conditioned. And almost every guy in my class was part of my JV football team. Glenn and Tom, I think maybe Robbie might have been in there, and John and a few others. So we all took driver's ed. It was in our school. It was an entire semester. I took it like second period. And so it's like a 55-minute class. And that's a lot of time when you add it up over, a 90-day semester or something like that. That's a lot of hours. And so, we took the class, and then afterwards, I think you would pay a small fee. This is way back in the early 80s. So I think it might have been $50 or something like that. And that paid for the driving lessons, for the gas and the insurance, and then for the coach to take us out and stuff. And then they would smush, 3 of us in the back seat with driver in the front with the coach. I never took the driving portion, and I don't even remember why. I really couldn't tell you. So then, over the next 6 months or so, when my friends, turned 16 and started getting their licenses and stuff, I was always younger than everybody. I started 10th grade at 14, actually, and then turned 15 during 10th grade. And Didn't get my permit for whatever reason, and my friends started getting their licenses, and then they just schlepped me around. I had bum rides from them. And then when I turned 16, I didn't get a license. I had a bike. I was just riding my 10-speed everywhere. And that's just what my life was like. And then I graduated high school, still didn't have my license, turned 18, and then I'm like thinking, I was living on my own by then, and for whatever reason, I still didn't get my license. I have no idea what my thought process was. I just had friends driving me around, and I was fine with that. In fact, I think 11th grade, my friend Jackie, she would drive all of us, from our houses, pick us up in the morning and drive us to school. And I think we would all pay her like 50 cents a week. And she picked us up in her Civic. I'm going to have to text her and ask her what kind of car it was. Maybe it was a Honda or something like that. And then sometimes if my schedule lined up with Jackie's, she would drive me home after school. But I think if I can remember correctly, the reason I didn't have my license is maybe my parents didn't sign off to allow me to get it or something like that. My mom. Anyway, so I had always ridden my bike growing up. That was fine, or my skateboard. And by then, I had a 10-speed, and that was fine. And then my senior year, actually, I ended up buying my buddy John's moped. It was this yellow moped, looked like a banana on wheels. And I bought it from him for either 20 or 25 bucks. And it was one of those old mopeds that had the pedals on it. And so you would pedal it for whatever reason. You pedal a moped considering it has an engine. But I lived at the top of this steep hill by then. And I remember that moped being very old, and it would never make it up by itself over the crest of that hill. So the last house or two, I would have to pedal it along with the engine, both of us working together to get it up over the crest of the hill. And then it would gain traction again, and it would drive me the other 10 or 12 houses to my house. And I had this old, probably 1960s orange motorcycle helmet with no visor on it. And no license or permit. And I used to putt around, on that moped until finally it died at some point in my senior year. But there it is. I didn't have a license or a permit. Then, I graduated, turned 18, I'm out on my own. And finally around, I think I was over 19 and a half. I think it was the summer of 87. Yeah, it was like 4 months before I turned 20. And my sister, Mindy, she's like a sister to me, so I call her my sister. I borrowed her Hyundai, and I took it over to the DMV. I made an appointment, took it over to the DMV, and I took a written test right then and there, and then drove her car around the front and took the driving test illegally without a permit or anything. Passed the driving test in 10 minutes, and I was given a license by the state of California. Go figure. The wild thing on the license part, though, is that I barely passed that license test. Not because I wasn't a good driver, because I was a solid driver. In fact, for all my buddies out there listening to me right now, you may or may not have known this, but I didn't have that license whenever I was borrowing your cars. I think you knew, but some of my other friends probably didn't. I think a couple of you let me use your car. Anyway, so I got my license that day and barely passed. And the reason being is I did not know that I had to look to my left and to my right while coming through an uncontrolled intersection. What's an uncontrolled intersection? It's an intersection that doesn't have any yield signs, traffic lights, or stop signs. You know what? It might have a yield sign. I think I've seen some yield signs at uncontrolled intersections. But the fact of the matter is you're not required to stop unless it's necessary. And that's what a yield means. It means slow down, stop if necessary, give the right of way. And now looking back on it, I do remember going through 2 blind intersections where I didn't slow down at either one, and I just went right through them. And I can imagine freaking out that road test examiner. Anyways, we pulled back into the building, the driveway, and she passed me with a 70. And she said that I almost failed because of those 2 uncontrolled intersections. And I guess, 30 points off of 100 divided by 2, that would be 15 points off of each infraction. So I'm really shocked she did not, fail me on that, because today that would be considered a critical error. And when I test teenagers, definitely it would not be a pass if they flew through an intersection without slowing down, looking both ways whatsoever, because cars could be coming, from either direction. So the question is why do we have uncontrolled intersections where there wouldn't be stop signs, or traffic lights? The reason being is usually they determine that particular area, which would most likely be a neighborhood, doesn't have a whole lot of traffic going through it. And we had the grid system in the valley in LA. So what does that mean? Most of our streets went north and south and east and west. So you could just go straight down, make a left, go straight down, make a right, and then a left, right. And all of our blocks were in big giant squares. So can you imagine putting a stop sign at every single block? And those blocks were pretty short. So some of those lesser traveled neighborhoods, they just wouldn't have stop signs or traffic lights at. And I get that. I totally do. So anyways, there it is. I get my license that day during the summer of '87. And I go over to Mindy's boyfriend's house, who was like a brother to me. His name was Sean. And he was a close friend of mine. And he had this big 1967 Plymouth Fury Sport convertible. It was 20 years old. Just ugly looking thing. And the paint was chipping off of it, blah, blah, blah. He sold it to me for $300. And I saved up my money to buy that car, man, because I really wanted Sean's car. I thought it was totally cool. I could take it out to Malibu Pier or Zuma Beach, and have a blast with it. And I was a young gun, just excited to get my license finally after 3 years. So I bought the car from him, and his dad helped him and I put together the paperwork and get the pink slip from him and, all that stuff, and the registration. By the way, the registration was out. I remember that. The tags were expired on the car. And I bought it on a Friday at about 4:30. Got my license a few hours prior to that. And so later on that night, I'm going to a church dance. Yeehaw! So we're all at this church dance, and I drove over there with the car on a Friday night. And the church dance is done about 10 or 10:30. And I'm driving back to my apartment, I think, or to my house. Can't remember which one. And I'm driving down Devonshire, right past the Devonshire police station. And I'm passing down it right up to, I think it was Reseda Boulevard, and there's a red light. And as I pass the police station, a cop car pulls out, and I see him pulling out. And he comes up behind me. And at the light, he puts his lights on. And I'm like, dude, I'm just sitting here, bro, at this light. It's red. Why are you pulling me over? I saw you come out of your driveway just like, who knows, 800 feet earlier. And so the light turns green. I make a left-hand turn. And sure enough, he's still behind me. So what do? I pull over to the right, and I stop alongside the curb. And the police officer gets out, walks up to my car, and I have the convertible top down. He walks up to the car and he goes, excuse me, what are you doing driving this thing out on the road? I'm like, I'm sorry, officer, I don't understand. And then he just goes, license, registration, proof of insurance, please. I take out of my pocket my driver's license, which was a temporary license. And back in the 80s, all it was a slip of paper. It was almost the size of probably like, a 3x5 card. But it was just a piece of paper. And I had it folded up. Honestly, I had it folded up to about the size of a stamp. And I took it out of my pocket, maybe a little bigger than a stamp. I took it out of my pocket and I handed it to him. And he refused to take it, if I can remember. And he said, unfold it for me, please. And I said, okay. So I unfolded it and I gave it to him. And he looks at it, and it's nighttime. So he's trying to get a good look at it. And he says, oh, you just got your license today? I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, where's your registration and your proof of insurance? And I said, well, I just bought the car today as well. Oh, you did? Well, where's your paperwork? Yeah, well, I don't have my insurance. I haven't gotten it yet because it's Friday night and they don't open until Monday. He said, son, you are not supposed to have this car out on the road until you get proper registration and insurance. And I notice your tags are out. And you want to know what else I noticed? And I'm like, what? He goes, your left blinker didn't work. You didn't put it on. I said, yes, I did. He said, you have a tail light out. You have a brake light out. and I could see a couple of your tires are way too low to be out on this road safely. And so I'm going to write you up for a ticket. I'm going to give you a fix-it ticket. I'm like, dude, what's a fix-it ticket, man? So he said, stay right here. I'll be right back. So he comes back a couple minutes later, and he gives me a fix-it ticket. And he says, you have to bring this car by the police station 4 weeks from now. I'm going to put the date on here. And you have to have everything fixed in 4 weeks. And you better have it insured. You better have it registered. And by the way, I think you have a muffler issue. And you better get that muffler checked out. And if your muffler is cracked or something like that, you need to get that fixed because it is way too loud as well. Here's your ticket. So he gave me the ticket, and yeah, no doubt. I had 4 weeks to scramble. I had to get bunch of money together. By the way, I was making $200 a week. You know what? I know. I was living in a townhouse with Jerry and Mark, and 3 of us were roommates. And I was making $200 a week selling videos over the phone to video stores. And $800 a month. So I had to scramble, get a bunch of money. Turned out the muffler was broken, and I had to go to the muffler shop. And right there, that cost me, I think, almost a couple $100. But once I got that muffler fixed, man, that car purred. And then I had to get a bunch of bulbs, and stuff like that to get all the lights fixed and the blinker. And then sure enough, I did get it registered. And I also got a liability policy from the insurance company, and it was $80 a month back then, 1987, for only liability. Can you believe that? So the following weekend, I decide I'm going to go see some of my buddies who go to San Diego State University. I think my buddy Dave lived in one of the dorms down there. So I drive the car all the way down to San Diego State, crossing over like an island, which would mean you'd be going up over 2 curbs, going up, driving on the island, and then going down on the other side. So sure enough, cop pulled me over. I had already gotten into the parking lot in the parking spot. So he comes in and he comes up to me and goes, what do you think you're doing? I said, what? He goes, you just crossed over a double yellow line, license, registration, proof of insurance. Fortunately, I had both of those by that following week. And he gave me a ticket, and I had to go to traffic court back up in LA a couple weeks later. And they gave me 8 hours, man. 8-hour traffic school. So I had to pay the ticket, which I can't remember what it was, but then I had to pay something like $70, $80 for an 8-hour traffic school class. We didn't have the internet back then. So I had to look in the phone book, obviously. Well, in LA, there are plenty of them. And so I grabbed this comedy traffic school thing, and I showed up, and it was packed. And it was 8 hours, and the guy was trying to make us laugh the whole time. He was actually pretty good. I laughed quite a bit. And who knows, maybe in the back of my mind, it like stuck that inspiration in there, because look what I do 30 years later. I own a traffic school and driver's ed program. So go figure. But, so far, my driving life isn't looking too good, is it, to ya? Because I'm not making the right decisions. Oh, hey, you know what? Maybe I can blame it on the fact that my brain isn't fully developed for maybe another 9 years or so. Who knows? But, the fact of the matter is as a young driver, you still have to take responsibility for yourself, And nobody really taught me about this stuff with the car and insurance and blah, blah, blah. I actually had to figure it out all by myself, and maybe ask some of my friends about, maintenance and insurance. I didn't know about a lot of this stuff back then. I was very naive and unschooled in it all. So anyways, crazy story, huh? Oh my gosh, look who just walked by. Hey, Maddie.
Hey, Spank.
How you doing? Come in here really quick. Oh, I see you got yourself a popsicle.
I did.
What flavor is it?
It's grape.
All right. Hey, we might hear these chairs squeaking. Maddie just came by. She's one of our students, and Maddie went to, it's the Bridgestone Tire extra extreme training type of thing that they have, right?
Yes.
So how did you come to sign up for it, by the way?
Actually, my mom just heard about it through one of our friends at school, and she registered us for it online.
Oh, that's cool. So tell me about it. It was up in Nashville, right?
Yes, it was by Opryland.
Great. What was it like when you arrived? Tell me what you saw.
When I arrived, we had to go up to a table and we registered, like we gave them our sheet with our name and we showed them our permit or license. Then we got a name tag and we went over to a tent and they gave us a little bit of orientation and then we started with all the activities.
And you were designated like a specific time?
Yes.
Oh, what time was yours?
Well, we didn't all have a specific time. You were in different groups.
Oh,
and
okay.
you would get your time just as you were there.
So you did it with a group of people?
Yes.
Okay. This is a free event, right?
Yes.
I heard that they come around here to Nashville area about once a year. I heard it also, they pack it out. They have to turn people away because so many people want this free training for their teen. What were some of the things that you did?
Well, some of the things we did, we got to drive BMWs.
Oh, they got to drive Beamers.
The first thing I did was I actually learned about car maintenance, and we just went over things like how to check the oil, how to check your tire pressure, and then I went to the next section, which was they put plastic on the wheels, and it would make it feel like you were skidding on ice. So we had to drive and then turn around a corner really quickly, and then try to correct the car and go through 2 cones. And then after that, we went and we learned about vehicle dynamics and just talked about more the physics of things like hydroplaning and things like that. And then I went to actually a game show section where we talked about rules of the road. And then my last section was one where we would drive as fast as possible, and then the instructor in the car would tell us to brake, and we had to slam on the brakes and turn the wheel as quickly as possible.
What was the surface like? Was it wet?
It was just a parking lot.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't a wet surface, though?
No, it was not.
What happened when you hit that brake that hard?
Well, you could feel the ABS shaking the car, and so it was actually easier than I thought it would be to stop the car in that short amount of time.
And what is ABS?
Anti-lock braking system.
Bam. Didn't we go over that in class?
We did, yes.
ABS brakes. Most cars have ABS brakes unless they are probably maybe early 90s and earlier. Anti-lock brakes, it pumps the brake pedal for you like 18 times in 1 second. So, that's really cool. Anything else?
Oh, we also got to drive golf carts, and we would try driving around a little course holding our phone to experience distracted driving, and then we would try doing the course again without our phone to see how much better we could do it.
I like that.
It was a lot of fun.
This is really cool. A lot of this stuff we can't actually physically do at driver's ed because we're in a classroom, and our parking lot is a much smaller area than, what was it? Where did you go? Near Opryland?
Yes.
Like in the big parking lot there?
Yes.
And where Opry Mills is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So they probably just sectioned it off.
Yes.
Approximately how many BMWs did they have?
They had about 3 per group, so probably about 6.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Overall, when you got there to when you left, how much time was that you were there?
It was about 2 hours. 2.5 hours.
Was it time well spent there?
It was.
Right, that's great. Glad to hear it. And it's funny because we were just talking about tickets right before Maddie walked by the doorway with her grape popsicle. Go ahead. Have some of that popsicle. Very good. So there's Maddie. Thank you very much, Maddie.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And hopefully this is going to help you in the future. Do you think it will?
I think it will.
So our driver's ed classes with our driver training in the car for 6 hours. By the way, she's finishing up today. She just did parallel parking with me, right?
Yes.
She nailed her parallel parking. She's going to get her certificate of completion to turn into her insurance company. Our training matched with that 2.5 hours that you were there through Bridgestone Tires. All of us working together with mom and dad helping her. I think you're going to do really well out on the road once you get your license next month.
All right, thank you.
So appreciate it. Good job. And we'll be back to talk more about my tickets that I got being pulled over by the cops. Be right back. All right, we are back. And guess who's in the studio? It is Zach. His nickname is Ruffy, Rough and Tough, Rough Rider. That's what I named him. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to the program. How you been?
Yeah, good. How have you been?
I'm ripping hot, dude. It's been a nectar of a day. Totally sweet. What do you got there?
A grape popsicle.
Grape popsicle. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Well, Maddie nailed her parallel parking. I was out just driving. Let me switch this microphone over a little bit. I was just out driving with Zach, and he nailed his parallel parking as well. So how much time have you been at Spanky's now?
I've done all 5 classes and 3 of the driving.
Yeah, we're like finishing up today, right?
Yes, we are.
So the 5 classes, it was really 5 days.
5 days, yes.
And we did,
2 classes each day.
that's right. So 10, 30. So he's on hour 35. We're about to finish up the next hour after the break here. We stopped by for some popsicles, want to interview him. So how was your experience here at Spanky's?
It was really good.
Yeah, high points?
The driving
Make me
was,
feel good? Do something, I don't know.
the driving was really fun.
We had a good time, didn't we?
Yeah.
Gosh, you know what? I'm going to pull your paperwork. Let me pull his paperwork right now. I want to see how many miles you went. You went on your first lesson. Looks like you drove almost 37 miles on your first lesson, 63 on your second, 0.7. You're over 100 miles for 2 lessons. Mm-hmm. Our goal for all 3 lessons here at Spanky's is 115. And I know for a fact you're like 2 miles from breaking that record already. Mm-hmm. And we still have, a lot of time left today. So he did really well on his parallel parking today. He's doing great on his intersections and stuff. Your interstate driving, you did really well, changing lanes at high speed and also merging and stuff. What do you think was one of the things you learned most here at Spanky's?
Probably just good habits and checking your mirrors a lot and just learning how to drive safely on the road.
How often do we want you to check the mirror?
Every 5 seconds.
Every 5 seconds, then we want you to do...
scan left and right.
Yeah, and then looking down the road, how far?
10 seconds ahead.
Yeah, 10 to 15. And then checking your speedometer, how often?
Every 5 seconds.
Yeah, very important. That's just all basic defensive driving, everybody listening out there. Do you remember what SMOG stands for when I have you change lanes?
Signal, mirror, over the shoulder, go.
BAM! That's what I'm talking about. What about Spanky's method of driving? That's defensive driving.
Scan, identify, predict, decide, execute.
Oh, you're making me feel so good about myself. And then what about yield?
Slow down and stop if necessary.
Give the
right of way.
Yeah, you got to give the right of way. That's right. Yeah, man. So you're a champ here at Spanky's. Appreciate you coming to our program. I gave you a hug because I'm so thankful for you. Did you see that? Oh, thank goodness for you, Spanky. It's been so nice having our son in your program. That we have some more kids. I'm like, thank you so much. Well, cool, man. So you like to run, right? Tell everybody what your 5K record is.
18:55.
Gosh, that's crazy, man. Have you ever done a mile? Time your mile?
I haven't.
Gosh, man. And how old are you?
I'm 15.
Yeah, when's your birthday?
September 23rd.
That's right. Dude. Yeah, you're going to be 16 in a few days. Bam. God bless you, man. Well, you go ahead. Keep finishing up your popsicle there. Anyway, so that's Zach, Rough and Tough Rough Rider. I'm Spanky. I know we were going to talk about tickets, but Zach happens to walk right by with a popsicle as well. I'm like, I got to interview Rough and Tough. So anyways, we'll be back, and I promise you I will get to more stories about tickets and, conversations with the cops when they pull me over the years. We'll see you later. We'll be right back. All right. It's always good to hang out with teenagers occasionally, hear how their lives are doing, what they're up to, and all that stuff. So anyways, okay, so back to some stories here. Getting pulled over. Oh, here's another one for you. I used to own a VW Squareback in college, and I was shucking oysters at the Chart House in Malibu on the beach. And so it was cool working at the beach every day. And I think I was living in my car, saving up money for college. That's what it was. So anyways, one day I'm driving through Malibu Canyon, probably about 15 minutes from work, and I'm driving in the wrong lane. It was a right-hand turn lane. The intersection was coming up, and I wasn't paying attention. And so the intersection is coming up fast, and I realize this is a right-hand turn lane. So what do? I blow right through the intersection on a right turn lane only. And when I go through the intersection, I snake back over to the left-hand lane, and now I'm in front of all these people. And I was wondering why that left lane was backing up so much when the right lane was clearly empty. Well, it was a right-hand turn lane. So I blow over to my left in front of all these cars, and a quarter of a mile after I did that, I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and I see sirens, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, dude, it's a cop. He saw what I did. There isn't anything I could do. It was my fault for not paying attention, but I didn't have time to slam on my brakes. and signal to my left and try and force my way in between all these cars. So anyway, so what do? I immediately pull over onto the gravel shoulder, and all the cars are catching up to me now. And, 7, 8, 9 cars, they're going past me. And then the cop car goes right past me, and he's following everybody. And they're now all moving over onto the shoulder, and they're letting him blow by. And now he blows by, and then they proceed to obviously go behind him. He's going down there like a quarter to a half a mile, to the point where I can barely see him now. And I was thinking, this guy had to have seen me, do what I had done. But maybe he wasn't after me. Well, then I suddenly see him start making a U-turn. And he makes a U-turn, and now he's coming back this way. And it hits me, yeah, he probably didn't see me when I pulled over. So now he comes past me, and he glances over at me, and I glance over at him, and I wave to him as he blows by me. And then I see him make another U-turn, and he comes up behind me, parks on the gravel shoulder, gets out, approaches me, walks up to me, he says, I thought I lost you back there. And I said, no, officer, I pulled over immediately when I saw your sirens because I knew you were pulling me over, but I have a really good explanation for doing what I did back there. He said, I'd love to hear this. License, registration, proof of insurance. So he takes that stuff, he goes back to his car, runs my stuff, comes back, he says, okay, everything's good, but I've got to hear your story. So I told him, I said, I didn't realize I was in a right-hand turn lane and the intersection came up too fast. I have an older car. I didn't really want to slam on my brakes. I've only owned the car for a month or so, and I didn't want to just screech to a halt in the intersection, so I just kept going. And he sat there for a moment pondering what I was explaining to him. And he actually said to me, he goes, you know what? I believe you. Here's your stuff back. Slow down, be careful, and pay attention. I'm going to let you go. And I said, really? Really? You're not going to give me a ticket? He goes, no. Really? You're seriously not going to give me a ticket? And then he said, you want me to give you a ticket? I said, no. I'm good, officer. I'm good. And he let me go, and I took off, and I went to work. And I'm like, yes, let me go. And I was honest with him, and I explained it to him. And just as a reminder, what I said a little earlier, cops are not always looking to ruin your day. Sometimes they'll give you a warning, they'll believe you, and they'll let you move on. But there are times when maybe, I don't know, you're going to try pulling the cry card out, and it's not going to get you anywhere because the cop is determined to give you the ticket because he really wants you to learn a lesson so that you're going to be safe out there on the road for everybody else, including yourself. Another time I was driving through Fairfax County, Virginia. It was a Sunday morning. I had just woken up, showered, checked out of my hotel, and I was driving somewhere. I was doing a presentation for an organization I worked at. And so it was a Sunday morning presentation. I had a few hours to get there, and I'm going like 65, 70 in a 55. It was a 55. Nobody was around. It was somewhere 6 a.m. by then, 6:30 a.m. And I'm all alone out on this highway, and this trooper pulled me over, gave me a big fat ticket, and what can you do? I was going clearly minimum 10 over the speed limit. So I get back to Nashville, later on that day, and then over in the near future, there was no way I was going to go to traffic court in Virginia. So they let me do a correspondence video 4-hour traffic school class on VHS cassette. So they sent me the VHS cassette, and I had to pop that puppy in and to do this 4-hour thing and write down the answers on the bubble sheet and fill in all the blanks and all that stuff and the multiple choice stuff. And it took me probably longer than 4 hours just to do the video because I kept having to rewind it so I could pay attention to what they were saying. That one hurt. But, so there it is. You get your time taken away from you. You get your money taken away from you. And those are easy reasons not to get tickets, you guys. Life is busy as it is for a lot of us. So to have to deal with the pain of getting a ticket, that should be the motivation to slow down, stop at all your stop signs, yield to your pedestrians in the crosswalks, don't drive carelessly or aggressively, check that speed every 5 seconds, make it your best friend, and just do all the things you're supposed to do as a driver. and you won't have the time to do the wrong things, right? Plus, it's just the safest route to go, right? Well, there were some stats for you, some stories. You got to meet and learn about some of our teenagers in our program. This is a good show today, wasn't it? Anyways, I am Spanky, the driving dude with all things driving. You can find us everywhere on social media. Have a great day. Rock on and rock steady.